The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, recently published the results of a list of parties that applied for registration. The electoral body pre-qualified 2 parties while disqualifying about 14 others, which it claimed did not meet its set criterion. Stakeholders are accusing the Commission of working on an agenda to narrow the democratic space for the ruling APC. Joining us to discuss this issue is Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa. He will also review the electoral reforms initiative taken so far to ascertain whether or not these steps can guarantee free and fair elections in 2027. Good morning, Samson. Thanks for joining us today on The Morning Show.
Good morning and compliments of the season to you all.
Well, good morning, Samson. Merry Christmas to you. Well, very quickly, in June, about 110 political associations, applied for registration, and they were given the guidelines and all of that. I think about 2 months later, that number increased to 171. And now, after that, about 14 political associations were shortlisted. But now, by Christmas, we're being told that only 2 political parties can make it, AAP and then I think the Democratic League or so. Now, do you think that people are saying there is a deliberate attempt by INEC and the government of the day to restrict the civic space for political expression? Do you think that they are right, or there is something they are overlooking?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Abati. Well, Dr. Abati, you understand Nigerian politics more than I do, and you know very well that when it comes to political party registration, there are political shenanigans, and perhaps one of the tactics employed, whether by incumbents or political actors, is to see to it that a cohesive opposition or a viral and strong political party does not emerge. So the politics of party registration, it's not new to our own electoral jurisprudence or jurisdiction, as the case may be. So I wouldn't discountenance some of the perceptions that have been expressed by people about the appropriation or the weaponization of democratic instruments to limit the registration of political parties. But having said that, there are 3 documents that regulate the registration of political parties. The first is the Constitution, the second is the Electoral Act, and the third is INEC'S regulations and guidelines for party registration. There are expansive criteria and procedures clearly outlined in INEC'S guidelines and the Electoral Act. In fact, in the INEC guidelines, there are about 4 different stages that any political association that seeks to be registered as a political party must meet. And so party registration is a very systematic, exercise. And when there is default on the part of those seeking registration, expect the Commission as a regulatory institution to activate its powers. And I think what it has done in this particular case is to look at the level of compliance with the procedures and the requirements that are outlined in the guidelines. And it is clear that based on the information that the Commission has provided, that some of these parties or political associations didn't meet the conditions. And I have seen or perhaps some of them have said they're going to go to the court to seek judicial review, of this action. And I think it's within their right to do so, because there are some parties amongst the 19 political parties today who were registered as a result of court order. So I think it's an evolving process, but I would not say that the parties, or political associations didn't meet some of the criteria, but we must also not discountenance the fact that, of course, there could be some level of tactics to prevent some of those parties from being registered.
Right, thank you. A case in point, if I cite an example, is one party's issue around the fact that there was a contention with the address registered. And according to them, they'd gone through the process, updated it online on the portal provided by INEC, done physical verification, yet they were still deregistered or not registered as a result of that. How do you think political parties who feel that they have been unjustly not registered, how can they respond to this? How can they address this in readiness for 2027? Because we also see if they decide to go to courts, the timeline it would take for them for the matter to be resolved in readiness for the elections. What are the options available, and how can we strengthen this process to ensure that INEC as a body does not also infringe on the rights of Nigerians according to, based on the Constitution, to freedom of association?
You're absolutely right. I think there are two things those seeking registration as political parties must keep at the back of their minds. The 2022 Electoral Act clearly outlines or prescribes two timelines. First, for any political association seeking to be a registered political party, in other words, any political association that wants to be on the ballot for 2027 elections must be registered 12 months before the date of a general election. That's what the Electoral Act says. And if you say 12 months before the 2027 elections, which by our understanding will be on the 20th of February 2027, there's less than 60 days to February 2026, which will come in no distant time from now. So 12 months. The second timeline, timeline is the 9 months for party mergers. So any political party or group of political parties that seek to merge for the 2027 elections, they must do so 9 months before the date of an election. So for the political associations that have grievance about how INEC has managed the registration process, I think the best thing to do is to seek legal redress. My recommendation to INEC is that before it wields, the big stick, in the interest of confidence building, it should take into confidence the parties that have defaulted in fulfilling the conditions for registration. Invite them to a meeting and explain, or perhaps even send them advisories, because when you do so, you're building confidence and you're proving to stakeholders that you're not under any pressure by any external force or any external actor to prevent political parties from registration. Because the whole party registration process is a rule-based process. And when there is default, on the part of a party, it can be injurious, to their overall interest. This is why parties need to take, or political association need to take compliance with the laid down procedure seriously. And when there is error, I think that there is room. INEC should create a room for parties to resolve some of the, especially when they are not substantially significant in every respect.
Okay, Itodo, good to see you. Merry Christmas. Happy Boxing Day. Anyway, we are not going to be boxing, but we're going to be unboxing all the gifts and Happy New Year. But Itodo, I put this to you that this conversation we're having is medicine after death. The death has occurred already. All of these things we're trying to prevent INEC from doing, they've done it already. Because they've passed a couple of parties forward. Any party that feels disgruntled, even if you go to court as we speak today, before you get time in the court, you can't file a case and start to look for jurisdiction and all of that and file a case. And it will get to the topmost court by February. So it's already a fait accompli. INEC has done what they want to do. So what should we do now?
Well, Rufai, it's good to see you, and very terrific dance steps yesterday. But now, to the point about this registration, yes, I don't think that this entire situation is irredeemable. In the last, prior to the 2023 elections, one of the parties, in fact, I can't remember the party, is it AA or so, one of the parties, was registered as a result of court order. Now, I would strongly advise for those parties to seek legal redress, that there is still time for the court to issue, directives. They can go to the Federal High Court. And what INEC has done, it has demonstrated that it would respect court orders. And so, if a party has grievance, it should approach, and in this case, the Federal High Court, obtain, justice, and put it on the commission to implement and respect the order of the court. Because in any case, if the commission is saying that it is respecting the court injunction or order in the case related to the dispute in party leadership, then I see no reason why it will not be consistent in upholding and respecting judicial pronouncements on party registration. It will not be the first time that a party will be registered as a result of a court order. And so I encourage the political associations who have grievance with INEC'S decision to approach the court and have faith that whatever the case is, they will obtain justice.
Samson, before we go, very briefly, the all-important issue of electoral reform. How much progress do you think we're making in that regard? And how do you think this new INEC chairman is performing? Briefly.
I think on electoral reform, let's inform Nigerians that the National Assembly has missed its deadline. We were told that by December this year, the electoral amendment will be ready for assent by the president. They've missed that deadline. And I say no thanks to the Senate, because the House of Reps has concluded its own work, but the Senate is still foot dragging. We hope that when they resume next month, they will conclude this process early enough, because INEC would have to issue timetable for the 2027 elections in February. I think there are three consequential provisions in that bill. The first one is the legal mandate for electronic transmission of results. And I hope that, INEC would leverage this to address some of the shortcomings in the last election. The second one is the discipline of resident electoral commissioners.
Okay. Just conclude, Samson. We'll have to go now. Thank you. And very quickly, just in one statement, I would really appreciate if you can be brief.
No, I just say that the 2027 elections are here. We will be having a new Electoral Act, but if political actors don't change their attitude, then all the efforts to deliver new Electoral Act will be an effort in futility.
All right. Thank you very much, Samson. Definitely be having this conversation again. And like you mentioned, hopefully they will expedite this in the coming year, 2026.